Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Unplugged with Ross. My name is Roslyn Miner, and tonight we will be talking about coins and confidence. It's a topic on wealth management, financial well-being, and tonight I am joined by my very good friend Lydia Ndiho. Lydia is a lady of very many, titles and hats that she wears. She has had a career in banking, she has had a career in insurance, she's had a career in real estate, and she will be having a discussion with us on wealth management tonight. Lydia, welcome. You can now switch on your camera. It's so good to have you here.
Hi, Roslyn. It's good to catch up and to talk
Okay,
about
Lydia. It's so yes, it's a very important discussion tonight, money. And before I hand over to Lydia, I would like to share some statistics. Well, 99% of people have life goals and only 51% are confident they will achieve them. When it comes to financial goals, 94% feel financially secure, and only following by a growing of 90% will have a savings account. Now, 72% of people say that their goal is to manage their debt. 53% want to reduce the debt of their loved ones. I think we all have that, especially when it comes to black tax. Yeah. But now there's a dynamic here when it comes to survival versus aspirational goals, whereby a large number of people are in survival mode with functional security goals, 89%, rather than aspirational goals at 66%. And this is courtesy of Nudge Global 2024. Now, these statistics, I can go on and on and on, and each and every one of us can relate when it comes to money matters. And tonight, the topic of tonight is coins and confidence, your guide to financial freedom. So, Lydia, the interaction I've had with you, be it from an insurance perspective, be it from a compliance perspective, and tonight we are talking from a wealth perspective. I hope this discussion, each and every one of us will walk away with insights on how we can build our wealth and have that financial stability. Lydia, karibu sana. And I hope everyone that is joining us online will enjoy this discussion, and feel free to send us any questions on the comment section. Please feel free to shout, and Lydia and I will be more than happy to interrogate the questions and provide answers where possible, or come back to you later. Lydia, karibu sana.
Thanks, Roslyn. Hey, the statistics you started with are serious. They're very serious. But I agree.
Well, when it comes to money is a serious business.
Yes, I agree. Money is serious. So how I want to start this talk is in a very interesting way. Think of all the bad financial decisions you have made. Not even the bad financial
Oh Lord.
decisions. Those investment decisions we have made that are questionable. That's how I want to start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with quail farming.
Guilty.
If you're a Kenyan, we have quail farming that happened. A lot of us lost a little money there.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a few pyramid schemes like DESI that we have
Oh.
survived. So as a Kenyan,
Mm-hmm.
let me put it this way: as a Kenyan, you've survived many bad financial decisions. So you need to clap for
Yes.
yourself for surviving the Kenyan economy. You just need to clap for yourself because there are as many schemes that I get on my desk,
Mm-hmm.
and I thank God I've
Mm-hmm.
done compliance, that just shock me at how much
Mm-hmm.
Kenyans have coined the most. Forget the Nigerian Yahoo boys. Hey, this one.
Mm-hmm.
Ha! Yes. So, as surviving Kenyans, you have done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Clap for yourselves. The other thing is, as a Kenyan, you
Mm-hmm.
need to always remember this. In Kenya, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem.
Mm-hmm.
As the finance
Okay.
bill is going on and we're discussing the ins and outs of the finance bill, which for me
Yeah.
is giving me a few heart palpitations. And I hope that our MPs this time just behave better and just refuse to pass some of the clauses. Like, for example,
Mm-hmm.
removing the tax exemption on pads and on milk supplements. So, if you're
Mm-hmm.
breastfeeding, those supplements will now you'll be paying the 16% VAT on them. Those
Yeah.
and diapers, those are the things that just don't make me happy. However,
Mm-hmm.
always remember this. In Kenya, we
Mm-hmm.
have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. I believe that if we managed our debt better,
Mm-hmm.
restructured our debt,
Mm-hmm.
just sat down and seriously thought through our debt, we collect 2.3 trillion. KRA collects 2.3 trillion year on year. We can survive on 2.3
That's a lot of
trillion
money.
as a country year on year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, as a Kenyan, when you look at your budget, just know you are a reflection of who your people are. Both your MPs
Mm-hmm.
and your president. You don't have a revenue problem. Most Kenyans I meet do
Mm-hmm.
not have an issue making money. Kenyans work hard, they hustle, they put the
Yeah.
coins together. So they usually don't have a revenue problem. What they have is a spending problem. So
Spending problem.
today, we're going to look at our spending. We're going to look at our budgets. How are they working for us?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go through
Mm-hmm.
tips on how to reduce your debt. And most importantly, how to invest so that please, we're not in quail farming, we're not in DESI, we're protecting our coin. It's very important that we
Mm-hmm.
protect our coin. So that's where this will
Yes.
go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
yes, Roslyn.
mhm. No, I couldn't agree more. You spoke about how people have lost money. You reminded me of once upon a time I decided to lease land
Mm-hmm.
to do potato farming. And I got a good harvest
Uh-huh.
until I got character development from the locals because it rained so heavy we could not do the full harvest. The following day, 75% of my harvest was already gone. So, yes, we have all tried,
Mm-hmm.
be it potato farming, be it onion farming, be it quail farming, you know, one way or another, we have really
Mm-hmm.
tried to get that extra
Yes.
income. The intention is there. However, character development, yeah, emotional
Yes.
damage comes as part and parcel, terms and conditions. So, take us through this conversation so that we can protect the coin, which very, very well put. As Kenyans, we really work
Yes.
hard. We are hardworking
Yes, we
nation.
are.
A lot of people, they're doing the
Mm-hmm.
right thing. Unfortunately, sometimes the priority is that, sometimes it's not out of choice. Sometimes the circumstances push you to a place whereby you're not in a position to save. But if we can, know how to spare a shilling or two, then I think we can be in a better place. Future wise, how can we protect ourselves? How can we prepare ourselves for the future? Yeah.
So let me see if this presentation will work. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
There we go. Perfect.
Awesome. So, a few key things that we need to understand as Kenyans. Every time our inflation rate goes either up or down, it affects your spending power, your purchasing power. So, this is the lowest we've had as an inflation rate in the last 15 years, if I'm not wrong, 15, 20 years, which is a good thing. It helps us purchase more. However, just know in the same way the inflation rate is low, is the same way your taxation has gone up. So you cannot, so while we're saying, yes, the inflation rate is low, you will hear a lot of economics saying, but our spending power has reduced. And why has our spending power reduced? Because we have gotten higher taxes.
A lot of taxes. Yep.
So we have moved on from doing taxation in Kenya generally has always been about 28 to 30%. Now we've hit the roof of, if I'm not wrong, we're at 38%. If we consider the new implementations of the new VAT situation that we want to put ourselves into, then our taxes will hit the 41%. It is not a great thing, but
No.
yes, Kenya is Kenya and is home. So why is this CBR rate? The next one is CBR rate. Why is the CBR rate important in Kenya? The CBR rate is very important in Kenya because it shows you how much credit, the cost of credit. So if they put the CBR rate at 10%, then it means your loans then need to become cheaper. However, we have the highest, in Kenya right now is the season we have the highest rate of non-performing loans. And in February, it was at 17.1. I'm sure now it's about 18.2. So as much as the CBR rate has come down, the banks are still hesitant to give because the non-performing loans rate is going higher and higher.
Yeah.
Why are treasury bills and bonds important in this market? Because when it comes to passive income, we base everything on these treasury bills and bonds. So for example, you want to go and do a fixed deposit in the bank will not give you generally, unless the amount is big, where they will match the treasury bill, but they will give you half the 91-day treasury bill. So the 91-day treasury bill rate is very important. So right now it's at 8.3. So banks are giving interest at 4%. So it's as much as, or it affects your money market funds as well, because they invest in treasury bills. So if the treasury bills amounts come lower, then your money market will now go low. However, we were going through an absurdly high rate that we have not seen since 2014. The last time our treasury bills were at that rate that you were seeing was in 2014.
Yeah.
Normally, in Kenya, normally, like even when, from early 2000s, when I was, understanding these financial markets, our rate used to be 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
Our treasury bonds used to be 10 to 12%. That's normal. That's okay. That is, I know I've been asked very many questions about, Lydia, are you seeing the money market funds rates are going down? Yes, they're going down because they are normalizing. The government cannot afford to borrow money from you at those rates. It will default. Already there are signs of default, but literally they cannot afford to be paying you 18% interest for the next 15 years. They're broke. Just, be gentle with your government. So that is why those rates had to come down. So at least now you understand when you see people talking about the inflation rate, when you see people talking about the CBR rate, they are important rates. You need to watch them because the higher the inflation, the quicker your savings erode. Inflation really affects your savings. So if you're saving with the bank at 4% and inflation is at 3.8%, literally you're only earning 0.2%.
Yeah.
That's actual amount that you're earning. Then that goes into what? Excise duty. So really, it's nil when you're saving at the bank.
True.
So everything that you consider investing in, you need to also consider the inflation rate. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
As it opens, you can be asking questions.
Well, I can see on the screen about bad
Hey,
money habits.
so let's talk about the things, the monkey in the room that we never talk about. One is spending more than you earn. This is a Kenyan phenomenon, but it is also a worldwide phenomenon. We spend a lot more than we earn. And how do you know you're spending more than you earn? You're covering your basics with debt. What do you mean? You have a credit card that you use to do shopping instead of your debit card. At the end of the month, there's more month than money. So you have not covered all your basic needs. And your basic needs are, your rent,
Food, shelter,
your
clothing. Yeah.
shelter. Yes. So if you're spending more than you're earning, then you need to redo your budget. And this is the other one that shocks me, people not budgeting. You must budget. Whether
Yes.
you're whatever personality you are. Let me tell you, I am a carefree spirit. I still budget. I wish I had endless amounts of resource, but I don't. So how do I make budgeting less painful for you? I'll give you an illustration because sometimes that works better.
Yeah.
The money that comes into your life is part of your anatomy. It is the same way your eyes, your hands, your brain, your hair, everything. So I need you to look at your money as part of your anatomy.
Yeah.
So the same way you will not hurt your ear. The same way you will not cut your finger purpose by you will not go prick your
Intentionally.
finger on purpose.
Yeah.
Is the same way money, you will not misuse it on purpose. And misusing it means you don't have a budget.
Makes sense.
Does that make
Absolutely.
sense? We need to stop
Absolutely.
looking at money as a separate entity. Ikoko, it's like a cat outside there, and we are here. No, take money as a resource. The same way you use your hands as a resource, the same way you use your brain as a resource. Money is a resource and it has to be part of you. The same way you wear your clothes is the same way you and money need to become intimate. Intimate. Friends. Your money needs to be more intimate than your perfume and your lotion. Yes. The other thing you need to look at money and why budgeting is important is look at money as a river. River Tana has will produce for us very nice tilapia and Nile perch. It will We will dam it and we will get electricity that we are using today.
Yeah.
When it is entering into Indian Ocean, it has the most beautiful scenery I have seen. Those mangrove trees and what it's beautiful. But it also has crocodiles and everything else. So this is your river. Where do you want to put that waterfall? Where do you want to put the hydrogen dam? Where do you want to put your flower farm? Where do you want to put? In other words, this river is you who controls it. My river Lydia is meant to flow without hindrances. And so if someone has come and dammed my river Lydia and I didn't approve that dam, I should be able to know through my budget that I am losing money here. I don't know what I'm doing with this money. Like I'll have 1,000 bob in the evening. I don't know how I used it. Now that is someone who is damming my money and has put a nice dam and I need to destroy it.
Yeah.
So we really need to work on mindset away from looking at budgets as animals and creatures that we are bad to. That budget is part of the same way you lotion yourself. It's part of that.
Yeah.
And then we are impulse buying. Oh, let me tell you the number of times I have impulse buying is one of the reasons why I do not drive a Lamborghini because if I did. But anyway, it one of the things I do is I make sure that there's no money for impulse buying. There's no emotional money because I like emotional buying. It's one of my biggest weaknesses. Then we ignore debt. How do we ignore debt? You think that the debt will go away. You avoid it. If you asked a regular Kenyan, I will use the word that I don't like using, a middle class Kenyan, to tell you where their debt is, you will see a hesitation because they've never written all their debts down. Yet, there's some debts you would have already resolved if you had written it down. And then we don't save. Pay yourself 10%. As you pay tithe, pay yourself. As you pay to, if you're not a tither or a religious person, as you pay black tax, pay yourself. As you, yes, because we don't save. That in Kenya, our saving rate is 3%. That's really bad. It has moved. Okay, at least we're doing well. A few years ago, we're at 12%, but now we're at 3%. So we really need to. And then when you get a paycheck, rise, as in your boss has given you a rise in the office, your side hustle has given you a little cash. You're very excited. Extra income. Extra income does not mean you change your lifestyle. Extra income means you invest. And we have peer pressure. And I have seen peer pressure where, your boys are all driving this car. Let me tell you, you don't know what your boys do. Can you stick to your lane? And then emergency fund. We all need an emergency fund. Please build your emergency fund. We'll discuss it as we go on. But yes, I hope you're writing questions.
Well, one of the questions that are coming, obviously, that will come through will be Lydia. Black tax. You have your siblings, you have your family. Probably you're the one who is assumed to be well to do with the family, or typical phrase that is used, or to gaslight you. Family takes care of family. So you end up doing everything for everyone else, but you forget to invest in yourself. And then when the dark side comes, none of those people that you are helping will be there for you. So how do we separate that? Because let's be honest, we are Africans, and in Africans we're very communal based, and people take that extra effort. I mean, back in the day when someone was going to university, even the neighbor 6 doors down the lane, they will claim they are your mother, will claim they are your father, they will claim they picked you up from nursery school and they watched you grow up. So you become like, very, very communal, and it's not a bad thing. But when it comes to money matters, that's a different topic altogether. So get ready for those answers.
Now, this is where we're going to discuss budgeting. And let me tell you why. Black tax can be budgeted.
Okay.
And I need you to put it in your mind that black tax can be budgeted. And once you reach the end of allocation of that money, so for example, I know a few people who go to a certain church have this thing of honoring your father and mother. So they give a certain portion to their parents as a token. So budget that token. Then budget. Samuel, I've seen your question. Yes. Avoiding financial education is a bad money habit. Yes. So let me go back to what I was saying. So this is how I do it. But Mimi, I live in my own very peculiar world. There's money I have put aside for giving.
Yeah.
Giving to funerals, harambes, because I'm always getting a card for some harambe at a church somewhere. And then giving towards treatment of my loved ones. Like my grandmother was sick for a while there, you chip in. Once my allocation is over, mimi ni wale nasemanga, I don't have money. What do you mean you don't have money? because I have already allocated the money and I've used it for the purpose of black tax. So this is where my giving ends. Is it hard? Yes. That is why you need a budget to take away that sense of I have money, let me give it to my people. You don't have. Why? Because everything in your budget has been allocated. So the money in your account most likely is for groceries the next 1 week. Otherwise, you and your children starve because you've been that diligent in putting away the money. So when it now reaches end of budget, unasema I don't have money, and you're actually saying the honest truth. You don't have money. You're not lying. Please note, you're not lying.
You're setting boundaries.
You're setting boundaries, and also you won't feel guilty because I lied to my people I don't have money. The truth is you don't. Haiko, it's not there. It doesn't exist.
That
So
would be a tough one for people to, because you get the hit. Be ready to
yes,
get the
you will.
hit.
But after a while, people will realize when she has money, she helps. And you'll hear someone say, huyo akiwa na pesa anatusaidianga, huyo amekwama, wacha tumuombe. And I get very many good prayers like those. I'm praying for the best because when I have, I do give.
Yeah.
So it's not that I am a mean person or I'm known to be a mean person. No, when I have, I will give. But when it reaches the end of that giving
Portion. Yeah.
portion, then I don't. So I'll get into details, but 70% of your income should go into expenditure, 20% into savings, and you can see where 10 goes into your emergency fund or contingency fund, 10% goes into your development fund. Then 10% goes into your tithe or giving, or if you're not a tither, then giving. But yes. What do we need to do here? Write down all the money you get in every month from all your side hustles, including dividends. Hata kama zinakujanga 300 bob, there's all your sources of income. Make your budget an actual budget, and I'll explain in the next slide why. All the plots you have bought, because I know you Kenyans. Let me repeat this: we are land banking people. Write down every plot of land you own. Is it productive? Productive means it's making you money. If it is not, are you going to keep it or sell it? And start now selling it or making it productive. Then write down all your debt. And if some of your savings can offset some of your debt, especially, let me put this disclaimer, if you're in a circle and some of your savings are, like you have savings for 1.8 million and your loan is 500,000, can you go and pay off that loan?
Yeah. Use your savings to offset that.
Just use your savings to offset it and get off the loan. Because you will realize all of a sudden your budget starts opening up. Maybe you are paying 10,000 to the circle every month as a loan repayment. Now you have an extra 10,000 that you can either save which you will save into your contingency fund or your development fund.
Or replenish the savings you had at the circle.
Yes. Again, if the math is not mathing, at the end of this, I will give my contacts. Reach out and tell me, Lydia, the math is not mathing. Kimeumana. We'll sit down and we will talk about restructuring your debt and all these other things.
Yeah.
Hey. So each time you think of your budget, I need you to write down everything. Write. If Mama Mboga charged 20 bob today for tomatoes, write 20 bob your tomatoes. Hey. Okay. Let me look at my notes as this presentation does its thing.
As you check your notes and we talk about writing each and every, item, be it on a budget or be it on your debt, I think we also need to mention about, mobile money loans, the Fulizas. The
Yes.
ones, the quick, you have an emergency or whatever it is, and all those things add up to serious,
Yes.
it may not seem as much at that time, you know. You may be out and something happens, or maybe you have a medical emergency, then it makes sense. But you also need to realize that it needs payment. You've borrowed it, you have to pay back. So how are we going to ensure that you are not stretching yourself too thin to the extent that, yeah, despite your budget, you're still there not, but I mean, the math is seriously not mathing.
First, let's start with mobile loans are from hell.
Preach.
The interest rate on a mobile loan is 36%. Whether you're doing KCB that or whoever it is, the minimum I have seen, because they will charge you 3% per month, 3 times 12 is 36%. Whether we're going to Mogo, Platinum, whoever it is, avoid them. And the minute you take one, pay it off fast. And I will give the reasoning why. Pay it off fast. Pay off all your mobile loans and then delete those apps. And do not be tempted, please. My brothers and my sisters, please listen to this preaching. Avoid mobile loans. One, I've seen people lose jobs from mobile loans because your HR will get an email be smearing your name everywhere.
You're preaching to the choir.
Your phone line in the office, no one can receive business calls because they are calling you constantly. By the time you report, nini, and the company backs off, they will take you to court, a small claims court. The other day, small claims had to I think they put aside 1,000 hearings from one of these mobile loan companies. It is, I know the temptation is there because the credit looks free. But what it does to your reputation, to your data, because you don't know how they store your data. They have access to your phone data, your contacts, your photos. So they have access to like your gallery. Access that I'm like, this is intrusive.
So much for data protection, GDPR.
Exactly. So please avoid mobile loans. I know you're all going to tell me, but see, I can't call my sister, my brother. I'm like, I'd rather you call your sister, your brother, who will make noise at you, but will help you. And if they're not in a position to, they won't, but it is better. If you have noticed you're getting into the mobile loan issues, then look for a SACCO and join the SACCO. SACCOs have emergency loans that you can apply on the app. They have a limit. Sometimes it's only 5,000 or 7,000, but it will help you at that moment. But please avoid mobile loans. I don't know how else to preach it, how to scream about it. Just avoid them. It's the same way I have issues with education policies. Avoid them. Just let's be very clear. Mobile loans are not great. So if you have one, I want you to write all of them down and I want you to pay them off. Yes, you will get a hit in your spending ability. In your budget, there'll be
a dent.
And if you calculate how much interest you're paying and how much they gave you, you're paying half the amount that they gave you in interest. So they most likely transferred. You got a loan for 2,000. They only transferred 1,200. So you're paying 800 in interest. After 1 week, take a breath and just stop. Yes. Because Roslyn will tell you there's a time someone hacked one of my phones and Okay, now Roslyn was on the receiving end of very many, until Roslyn asked me what happened. I could not even explain it. I had to go to Safaricom, I had to go to cops. Like, it was such a messy situation. And then I'm wondering, hey, this mobile loans charge this much. And now when I started investigating, I realized this is a whole mess. There's Timiza that is run by ABSA. People literally, again, even the banks are charging you the 3-4% on their apps. So please stop. Let me go back to my budgeting. There's the 50-30-20 rule, which means 50% is spent on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings. That is a very cute formula, but that formula in Kenya does not work, and I'll tell you why. Kenyans do not do ratios. So what I usually ask you to do is do zero budgeting. What do I mean? You sit down and write, my rent is 25,000. My water, I paid this much, 2,000. My electricity, Kenya Power charged me 3,500. And you write everything down. Then for those monthly spendings, then for the spendings that we know you're going to do weekly, your meat, your onions, your tomatoes, every day, your transport, you sit down and write down how much you spent every day. By the end of the month, you will have a including those dates you went for, your vape, your beer, everything. Do not be ashamed of your budget. It is your budget. There's no moral police asking you why you were having Sanford at 2 a.m. in the morning. You wanted to have Sanford at 2 a.m. in the morning. You're
Yeah.
happy. Write it all down. At the end of the month, look at that, your little book or your Excel sheet for those who are into Excel, or your tracker, your app. It will show you what your true expenses are. The next month, allocate money to each expense. And for most of the trackers that I've seen, you can actually put a beginning balance. So you can put on groceries 7,000. Then every time it's a grocery expense, you reduce it on the app. If you realize that 7,000 was not my grocery, I actually need 9,000, then you know I have to adjust. Then on the third month, you now adjust properly so that everything, every coin that gets into your account has an item attached to it. So if you're earning theoretically 100,000, everything, including one bob, is allocated. Which means if you realize I spend for black tax, I spend every month 6,000, then allocate a budget item written black tax or help to mom or whatever. If it is loans to your friends, if you're that type of person that, people have your 3,000, 4,000 out there every month as a loan, write it down, loan to friends, and allocate a budget. Zero budgeting works for Kenyans. This other ratio doesn't, because Kenyans are not Kenyans, I think naturally people are they like interactions. They like knowing I'm learning something new, I'm growing myself. So that zero budgeting, I have seen it work more for Kenyans than if I give people ratios of 50, 30, 20, they're like, Lydia, so I can only spend 50. No. You just write down what you spend so that we understand where your spending problems are.
But I,
So, hey, wait, my income, 20% of it goes to me dating this girl. So either our dates have to change or I have to make more money to cover the dates.
true.
So you start thinking of your side hustle and your passive income. Again, it has to be that clear, that regulated.
But I think we also need to add aspects to do with anticipated costs. So, for example, someone who drives, you have car insurance. Maybe as part of there are employers that will give you full medical insurance, and there are those that will only provide for their staff, and then you have to top up for the family. So all these extra guaranteed expenses, they also need to form part of your budget. And obviously, they fall due at specific months. They don't all come at once. It's the same way we talk about, for example, December is the longest school holiday in Kenya. You know very well, January, it's back to school. So you have school fees. The probability of you doing a fresh set of uniform is very high because your young one has grown a couple of inches taller, or their feet, they now have a bigger size foot that you need to replace the shoes. So I think also as part of zero budgeting, because there, when you have a budget, there's a certain constant. Your rent is constant, unless I mean, your rent is not increased every month. It is constant.
No.
If you're using public transport, the probability of a certain amount of money you use per month will remain constant, so to speak, with very, very little wiggle room. So it will come to a point whereby, I may be earning 100K, but when I put everything, I know like 80,000 will go from rent to electricity to you name it. And then I'm only left with 20,000. And 20,000 is what you need now to do something smart with it. It's
Yes.
not for Vasha and you guy, my guy. It is for what's for the future. Yeah.
Yes. And that 20% has to be allocated. So we usually say you need to have an emergency fund. So you allocate some of it to the emergency fund. You allocate some of it to what we call a sinking fund. What is a sinking fund? A lot of people will talk of many things, but it's where your car repairs will be. Your car, like now, if your car is due for service, that's where you get the money from. If your car insurance, if it's your school fees, a lot of us have a school fees kitty that is dedicated to school fees. Why? School fees does not change much. The school will send you at the end of the year in October. Usually they send you, these are school fees for 2026. So you look at your budget. Again, we are planners. We are going to be planners after this talk. We're going to be planning people, thinking ahead people. So if I know my car insurance is 24,000, I know school fees for the year is 100,000. So I'll divide that 100,000 into
12 months.
11 months.
Okay.
So I'll know every end of the month, this is how much is going into the school fees kitty. This is how much is going to the sinking fund. This is how much is going into my emergency fund. Slowly but surely, the reason we end up in debt is a lot of times for consumer issues. What are consumer issues? My car has an issue. I don't have money to fix it. However, if I'd been putting 1,000, 2,000 bob aside every month, even if I have to get a consumer debt to fix this car, I already have a little of the money to fix the car.
Yep.
So I'm not going to look for 100%. I'm looking for 50%. So it's that adjustment that we need to learn to make.
Couldn't agree more.
So and then I keep saying this. If, for example, you're those people who do allowances per month, per week, I've seen it a lot, especially with the guys who are entrepreneurs. And at the end of the week, you realize, wait, I didn't spend the 2,000 bob. I only spent 1,200. That 800 bob, transfer it into your savings. If not the 800 bob, nataka kujinunulia one beer, which is 300 bob at my local. So 500 bob goes into that
Yep.
savings. So what happens is you will soon realize my savings are growing, because I think we're always expecting to save 20,000, 40,000. It's ideal. It would be great. But sometimes you can only save 1,000 bob a week. You can only save 500 bob a week. Start there. Start with the little and then build it up. Before you know it, your savings will be a lot.
True.
A lot.
True.
So that you reduce your consumer debt. What is consumer debt? I'll talk about it, but it's things like buying a car on loan. Your credit card is consumer debt.
Mortgage.
It's furnishing your house using things like Lipa Later and Aspire. That's consumer debt. And you can save on consumer debt.
Cool.
Samuel, I've seen your question. I will find an app for you. So let's talk about debt. Good debt builds wealth. Bad debt is usually for depreciating assets. What do I mean? Let me give an example. If you take a mortgage and you buy a house and you're not living in that house, okay? You're not living in the house. So you've bought a house where, let me give a real example. So You bought a house in Kileleshwa where you're being paid rent of 80,000, but you live in Great Wall where your rent is 30,000. That house in Kileleshwa is a good investment. However, if you pack yourself up and go live in the house in Kileleshwa, that becomes a depreciating asset. So even if you're getting into real estate, oh, I want to buy my own house. Before you buy your own house, buy a house for investment and let that house for investment buy you your house. I hope that is making
It is.
sense. That's the easiest way. Bad debt is buying a car on loan. One of the worst mistakes some of us have ever done is buy a car. You ask yourself, it's not bringing me an income. What am I doing with it? Again, that is it. So I need you to sit down with yourself. I usually call it a committee meeting with
Jiite
yourself.
mkutano.
Me, myself, and I come and have a meeting. Write down all your debts. Hata kama ni ya mama mboga for 30 bob, write it all down. When you write it down, you will realize there are some debts you can using your savings. And I'm not saying go and empty your savings account, no. But there's a way you can look at your savings and realize if I remove my savings for 100, I have maybe savings for 600,000. But some of these debts, if I add them up, it's 100,000. Pay off those debts with your savings. You'll still remain with 500,000 as your saving, but you've paid off some of that debt. The technical version of this, what I'm explaining, is avalanche or snowball. So avalanche is you pay the guys who are the highest interest rate. They're usually the noisiest, which is our mobile loans. Yes. Or you can pay the little debts first and then build up to the big debts. Either way, I need you to pay your debt faster. Why? It is to the advantage of the banker for you to stay longer with your loan. It is to the advantage of the banker for you to stay longer with your loan. Why? Because usually you pay my interest as a banker first, then you pay the principal. If you look at your loan schedules, the first 10, 15 amounts are usually of interest.
True.
Then you start paying off your principal.
It-
So please, it is the interest of the banker to keep you paying this loan. Because I'm getting interest income, and that's profit.
Absolutely.
That's profit.
Absolutely. And if you find yourself with some extra income, you can actually do capital reduction, whereby
Yes.
your loan disbursement schedule remains the same. But when you're doing capital reduction, nothing ever goes towards interest. It actually hits your principal. So you are actually paying off your principal way faster and you'll end up paying less. Like,
Thank you, Rosalie. That is the key here. That is where I was going to. Go to your bank. I know we don't like hearing my fellow bankers, you'll just forgive me for
me
this
too.
one. Walk and write down capital reduction. For some banks they insist on principal reduction, whichever it is, over the counter. First get your loan account number, then go and pay off. Even if you're paying off 20,000, 10,000, 20,000 extra every month to principal reduction, what happens is for most banks, every quarter we recalculate your interest, we recalculate your loan. Then all of a sudden, when you get that new loan schedule, you realize, hiya, I've knocked off a few months. Then before you know it, I've knocked off a whole year. Like that. That is how we pay off loans. Two, if you have a bank loan, but you also have a circle, look at your circle. What is capital reduction? Capital reduction, Sheila, is reducing the principal amount you borrowed from the bank. So if you borrowed 1,000,000 shillings from the bank, you're reducing that million so that every time they calculate your interest period comes down. So maybe your interest period was 60 months, all of a sudden it's 56. Before you know it, it's 50. And it is just simple amounts you have topped up. And don't go and write their top up of your loan. No, go and write capital reduction or principal reduction, depending on the bank you bank with.
Just to complement to what you
Now,
said, to provide an example, if your monthly loan repayment is, for example, 40,000 or even 30,000, when you're starting to pay off your loan initially, you will notice like 20,000 shillings goes towards interest and only
yes.
10K goes towards the principal. And that's why when you look at your loan disbursement schedule, you wonder if you have a 60-month period, you wonder why the first 2 years nothing is moving. You're paying, but the amount you owe is still a lot. So when you talk of capital reduction, if you have, maybe you've had a salary increase, you have maybe an extra 10K or 15K. Instead of going to do crazy things, buying handbags and all this koso, just go to the bank and have a standing order for capital reduction for that 15,000. All of a sudden, your 40,000 that or 30,000 where 20K is going towards interest and 10K is only going towards principal, all of a sudden your 15,000 plus the 10,000, it's now 25,000 going towards the principal. That is capital reduction. You will not only reduce the amount of interest you will pay the bank at the end of the day, but you will also reduce the tenure. The tenure is the duration, the 60 months, 48 months, whatever months. That is the impact of capital reduction on a facility with whatever institution you have.
So you're stuck with, you're looking Kenyans and SACCOs. So let me just dive into this SACCO story. Your SACCO savings can afford you a loan, even without getting guarantees
Yes.
or guarantors, can afford you a loan that will offset the bank loan. Take the SACCO option and offset the bank loan. Why? SACCOs by regulation need approval from the parliament to increase the rate. If you notice, most SACCOs, their rates are between 13.5 and 14%. By the time they're going to change that 14%, they need to get those MPs to agree through SASRA that they should increase their loan rate to 15%. That's a whole 1% increment. They can't do it. So then the second thing that SACCOs don't do is they cannot be punitive on principal reduction. So every month they recalculate your loan based on what you paid. So if you're doing capital reduction on a SACCO loan, you even pay it faster and at a cheaper rate because every month they recalculate your interest because it has to be, by law, it has to be on reducing balance. By law, like it is the law of the land, you have to follow it. And so a lot of them, and that's why a lot of our SACCOs are very computerized, is that so that those calculations happen automatically and so that they don't get into trouble with SASRA. So look at your SACCO, genuinely look at your SACCO. If you're struggling to pay the bank loan, how much of it can your SACCO cover? Transfer, consolidate the debt. If you have five loans from 5 different banks, look, that is why I'm telling you to write down all these debts. Can I consolidate some of these debts into my SACCO, and my SACCO makes it easier for me to pay and faster? So use the SACCO to your advantage when it comes to debt. Again, the high interest rates, pay them fast. Pay them fast. The small balances, pay. Mobile loans, pay and leave them alone. Pay and leave them alone. I have had to do a lot of consultations with a few HR managers who send me their employees and say, this person's paycheck is below the threshold of 30, is above the threshold of 30% loan. The person is most likely at 45%. So when they're being sent to me, it's for me to do debt management. They're not even being sent to me for me to help them invest. Imagine. It's this lady takes home The most critical one I have encountered is a lady who takes home 1,500 shillings because of
Oh
debt.
dear.
And by the time the HR discovered, the debt was literally becoming bigger and ballooning and ballooning and ballooning. Anyway, we worked hard. We we did the whole debt with, especially with the help of their HR manager, because she was like, I have to help this person. So now we moved from 1,000 to 12,000. Right now, I think we are at 34,000 take home, which means she can eat, she can go to work and get back home. Like, but before we give HR all these issues and you come to my desk as a critical case, let's sit down and write down all our debts. Let's look at debt. Um, I'm one of those people who's really been advocating, this is a side remark, for Kenyan, the Kenyan government to write for us all the debt we owe. Why? It will give us the real picture of how much we actually
Yeah.
owe. Leave alone this public debt they give us every month, which they give us because of our treasury bills and treasury bonds and our public loans that we've taken from China Exim Bank, which are public records. No, we want every loan written down. Let us face our true reflection of how much we own, and let's start paying off the debt. That's it is. Yes, Samuel, write down every debt. So better things now. Better after the hard work. Please write down your financial goals. What do you want to achieve with your money? Ama unataka tu when we, please note, you will not carry this money to heaven. So you might as well just achieve what you need to achieve with it now.
And yet,
I believe that every time you have goals, you spend your money better.
true. And considering that you will not always have debt, if you do the right thing, you will clear your debt. And that means you have more disposable income. So, how can you elevate yourself for better? How can we, you know, those things that you have, when you're growing up, what car do you want to drive? It reminds me, and sorry to digress, Lydia, it reminds me of something Steve Harvey spoke of or has spoken about in one of his shows, where he says, write down each and everything you've ever wanted in life. Everything. If it is a car, just don't write, I want a car. No. Write, I want a Mercedes. What Mercedes? GLE. GLE what? 450. Do you want the diesel or the petrol? You have to be specific. I want a Mercedes GLE 450D. I want it to be, say, wine red in color. You have to be specific in what you want. That gives you the ambition. When you look at it, when you look at the list, it's like your vision board. Basically, it's your vision board. What do you want to achieve? You cannot be hustling every day, going to make money. You wake up very early in the morning, you do your work, and then you get your pay at the end of the day, and you fail to invest in yourself. You have to have those goals. They have to make sense, and they can only make sense to you. Other people will not understand why you want to have 50 acres of black cotton soil and they're asking you why you don't want red soil. You're the one who knows why you want black cotton soil. So why do you want black cotton soil over red soil? Why do you want to live and probably buy or get some chunk down in Ukambani? And someone will ask you, but that place is hot and whatever. You're the one who knows. You have that vision in you. You have to write down your goals. Lydia?
Yes. And so my work as your wealth manager is to see the goals and perhaps attach amounts to it and see how we're going to get those amounts. I cannot have a vision for you because my vision and your vision is very different. Um, Very, very different. Like, for example, let me give you a very interesting something that's been on my board for a while and is still there. Is I like Ford Rangers. I think they're the most amazing cars in the world. I can tell you one is 17.2 million, and I have test driven the car I like. Okay, now that is Lydia's goal. Where perhaps me, Mercedes has never been my thing. I'm just like, they're pretty, okay, they're pretty. Again, each of us has very different goals. Some of you want to do PhDs. Mimi Shule, apart from my professional qualification, I don't think I am going back to school. But hey, you never know. I might reach 50 and decide I want to do a
True.
PhD. Who knows? Again, some of us want to have more children. We want our children to go to St. Andrews Turi. Some of us want to go our children to go to McKinney and do Cambridge. I can't carry the vision for you. And that's why I usually say financial goal setting, I will ask you to go home, think about 5 goals or 3 goals. And I usually tell people, let's start small. Give me a short-term goal, which you want to achieve in the next 2 years, in the next 1.5 years or 18 months. Give me a mid-term goal that you want to achieve in the next 3 years, and give me a long-term goal that you want to achieve in the next 8 years. That's it. Write them down. And what happens is when I remove your mental block from writing the goals, you will come and bring me 15 goals. I'm happy with 15 goals. Whether you bring me 3 to 15 goals, I'm happy with the goals. What I want is goals. Why? I've realized as we grow older, we stop having hope. And as our hope reduces, our vision reduces. When I make you write goals, what happens is the hope part of you activates. Please remember, money is very, as much as I usually tell people, money has no emotion, but the person handling the money has to deal with their emotion. So a lot of what I do is also financial counseling, where I'm like, where did we lose the hope? Where did we lose the dream? Where did we lose the vision? How do we get you back there? How do we get you back to believing that you can achieve your goals? How do we get you back to believing that you can use money as a tool to achieve your goals?
And I think to complement what you're saying, the older we get, we also come to we also need to break some of the tendencies that have been there over the years, that when you grow old, the expectation is that your children look after you. You have to stop that. Your goal has to build and secure you for your future, because it's you and your life. Your children are your children and they have their lives. They will get married, they will have their children, and all of a sudden you will be there going, oh, my children don't care about me,
Let, let,
and all that stuff.
let me put it, Rosalie, let me put it this way. I have a Gen Alpha in my house. So the other day I tell her, hey, but baby, when you turn 18, my sweetheart, you'll be my chauffeur. She told me, when I have time and you schedule yourself into my schedule. When she has time, me, who is her chauffeur and her Uber driver right now, who Ubers her everywhere, as I call it, Uber driver, will have to be looking at her schedule and scheduling when I need her to drive me. She can't just be driving me everywhere aimlessly. She has a
Yes.
life. Please note, she's how old? 8.
Yep.
8. So please, that is not a girl I can expect that when I'm retiring, she'll be there to worrying me. Please. Let's accept that millennials, and not even the younger millennials, the older millennials are the only ones who will be paying black tax in a few years. The rest, no.
We have to secure our future now. Yeah.
Now, so the Maslow's hierarchy of
Needs. Yeah.
needs matches usually our financial needs. So your basic needs, ensure they are met, which is your safety and physiological needs. Then your love needs and your esteem needs need to be invested for. Invested for. Okay, I've seen your question. Invested for. Okay, which means you need to look for a savings plan that, because let's be honest, having a child is not an emergency.
It's a choice.
Getting married is not an emergency. I am sorry. I know. Upendo ni deep, but no. Love is not an emergency. Okay? Let us be very clear. Which school my child who was born yesterday is going to is not an emergency. And that's why I usually say love. Hey, first, let me just pause here and digress because I really need to talk about this. Let me nitoe kwa roho. Please, Kenyans, can we stop taking loans for our other people without a clear definition? Hey, you met her last week. She tells you she needs a loan of 500,000. Ndio wewe, you have picked
Very fast.
SACCO forms. You have filled them in. You have gone and you have taken a loan for Madam. Is Madam married to you?
There's nothing legal.
Is Madam married to you legally? Legally. I'm not talking about ulipeleka ng'ombe tatu. No. Is Madam married to you legally? So therefore, you have no legal recourse when you lose that money. You will be at my desk trying to salvage the debt. Again, please, Kenyans, love and money needs to separate. I am serious, and I'm very serious. We need to separate love and money. Love and money, unless it is in a legal structure. What do I mean? I am married to you. Married.
But it still doesn't give you the right for you to live your life for me. We are still
Exactly.
different
But
entities.
at least there'll be marital property, there'll be spousal consent, there'll be all that legal jargon that will come in. Please stop taking loans for your girlfriends and boyfriends. Please stop. You're hurting my feelings. Anyway, please stop. I keep saying this. Money has to have legality when it comes to love. Why? Because the number of people who are in my room at least once a week telling me the way they took a loan for the boyfriend for 5 million, and after 6 months boyfriend was no love ended, but they are still paying the 5 million loan, so they cannot do anything with their money because it is so committed to this loan.
You see, Pepe.
Please. And then it's not a women's phenomena. Please stop. I see a lot of social media posts where it's very women. No, even the men are doing
It's
it.
not gender specific.
So now I'm like, surely, what's going on? You people, your wealth manager is a bit stressed. Stop. Anyway, someone has asked me a very interesting question. Let's talk about having goals well set, working to achieve them, then the unforeseen, and it stabilizes your financial world. So, first, when the unforeseen disaster strikes, look at your savings. What have you saved? And that's why that emergency fund I was talking about is very important. Let your savings take part of the disaster because you can easily go back and build your savings. So, for example, life happens, your mom gets sick, she has cancer or one of those, and you need 2 million. So, you need to borrow some money to cover the treatment. You need to eat, like your whole financial situation just goes down the drain. Start by ensuring that your financial, to cushion yourself, that the emergency fund has worked.
But if I may put a twist,
And then,
normally in an African context, it can be illness, it can be death, it can even be the aspects of USAID, where a lot of people have lost jobs.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes life happens in the sense, let's say you had your plan proper. And then let's take USAID as an example. Maybe someone had gotten to a point whereby they are building their house, they're doing things, and then we all know what happened. And you are. You've lost your job, you have your kids, and all this. Your source of income is gone. At the same time, there's that side. There's also the other side where, on an African setup, you may have siblings, as an example. something happens, maybe your parent is taken ill, or even you lose your parent, or whatever it is, something can happen that is, or even your health can be affected. We all
Mm-hmm.
know very well, not everyone will be giving. There will be those that will be expecting others to foot the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an aspect of boundaries, there's an aspect of you might be in that position, or as we were talking, the giving fund, you've already depleted that, and now you're in that situation, or you've been made redundant. Where do you start? Because there's some things that are way out of your control, or maybe right now it's the time when you're
Control.
starting that emergency fund, so it doesn't have that much zeros in it. Where do you start?
So let me give an example of if you are in USAID, the job is
Yeah,
gone. For you to get a new job will take you about 4 or 5 months,
hopefully.
hopefully. So first things first, you cut down your expenses. Whether you like it or not, I am sorry, but your children may even have to change schools to a lower cost school as you sort out
Yeah.
everything else. Lifestyle will have to change. I know it is painful, but lifestyle will have to change. So move out if you can, move out of the house you're in and move back to home, like some of us have had to do. I have moved back home and continued
Yeah.
living life. Um, so move back home. Then three, do the jobs that appear. If the job I'm getting is I'm a doctor, but the job I'm getting is locums. I know a lot of you say doctors are now doing locums in our different
Yeah.
hospitals. Do the job that appears until you can get what you really want. If it is now if you're lucky and if you're one of those people who had been saving and for example it's your house that's not complete, you have two options. Sell the incomplete house, make money. But please remember, in Kenya, real estate transactions take 3 to 6 months to
Yeah.
complete. So for those 3 to 6 months, if it's Safaricom shares you have, liquidate them. If it is your emergency fund, you have funds in a special fund, an emergency, like in a money market fund, all these other funds, liquidate them. If you have treasury bonds, go into the secondary market, sell them. So that as much as you're reducing your expenses, but you can survive longer without a job.
Cash is king.
If, yeah, cash is king. So start with change. Cut your expenses to bear, like, if your kid was going to Makini Sasa and the local primary school for a little while as you figure things out. But the people who navigate financial disasters best are the ones who pivot the quickest. So within 1 month, those people usually have changed their lifestyle completely. They have changed their homes, they have moved out, they have lived on, to that monthly
Yeah.
deposit. You've lived on the extra deposit for that 1 month as you've gotten a
Yeah.
smaller house. You've sold the items in your house that you can't move with. You have, like, literally, but how to navigate it usually is the people who pivot quickest, who don't have a pity party. They just
Yeah.
pivot and do what needs to be done, survive financial disasters better.
That means that your mental well-being, as in your mental strength, you have to,
Mm,
your identity should not be determined by, the things of the world, the money. But you
mm,
have to see yourself
mm.
more or beyond the circumstances that you're in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know someone who, for them, they left Nairobi, they went and lived in Diani until they could recover and figure things out. So for each of us, there's that in us which we know we can pivot using. Pivot. Because guess what? You will still make the money back. But do not put yourself in financial distress that you can never come back with. For example, don't get to a place where you have to file bankruptcy in Kenya. Bankruptcy in Kenya is a lot of work. And two, it comes with its own social implications. So my suggestion is pivot quickly, cut all your expenses, sell what you can sell,
And
and move
and
on.
no apologies. Don't try to like match up with society expectations.
Uh-uh.
Do you?
Because let me tell you, when you're in that need, please tell me how many of us have friends who will pick up our calls.
Zero. Like
Thank
the
you.
phone goes silent. You even wonder if the line still
Yes.
works.
If the line is
Mhm.
still working. So, why is it important for you to have savings? Is because I usually say savings are my payment to me. I will prioritize me. You are going to be selfish with your money. Are we clear? After this, please, one of your take homes that you should write on top of your notebook is I am selfish with my money. I am self centered with my money. Why? Because even when all these disasters happen and people are expecting you to help and pay, if you were not selfish with your money before, you will not be able to meet the demands of the disaster. So aim to at least start with 3 months of your living expenses. If you get to 6 months, excellent, but aim for 3 months. Let's really bare minimum 3 months. You can save in whatever. If you don't know what to do with the savings, call me. I'll leave my contact at the end, and we can set up something for you. But 3 to 6 months. Exactly. Now, this is the fun part. The fun part. Your emergency fund is usually your security kiondo, which, as you can see, I've put their pension and insurance because you must save towards your retirement. These Gen Alphas will just put us in homes. So you'd better save so that when you're put in a home, you're put in a nice one. Money market funds, very important. Treasury bills, a lot of us do that. Savings in the bank or in your circle. Pension is key, insurance is key. Your important kendo, what is that, Lydia? Lydia, that is your contingency fund. That is your security kendo is your contingency fund or your security fund or your emergency fund. Your important kendo is your development fund. This is where you're growing your passive income aggressively. Where at some point, I usually say, you will be financially free because you're not paying any bills. The interest from all the things that you have invested in, from your dividends in the shares, from your bonds, treasury bonds that are paying you every 6 months, from your corporate or commercial papers that are paying you every 3 months, from your rental income, from your side hustle or your business, all the money coming together pays off for your lifestyle comfortably. Okay. Then there are the people who, they are aiming for self actualization. A lot of times, self actualization cannot come from your employer. So a lot of people will then get into private equity or venture capital where they invest in all these startups, and you have a portfolio like 40 startups that you are running your own business. Currency trading and crypto are really good, but because the returns are crazily high, 40 to 50, 60% in some cases. There's one I saw the other day was at 120 a crypto, that is 120% right now. Yes. But why this self actualization? Why do I call it an aspirational kendo? Because these are the people who are playing golf while me and you are hustling. Uh, Rosalind knows we used to look at over in our offices, we used to look at a golf,
Of
and I'd
course.
go for lunch and I'm seeing this guy on 13th hole on a Tuesday afternoon. Mimi niko na stress ya kazi. Yeah, his ball just went into the bushes and he's looking for it.
Or the ones that used to
That
be
has
there
been
on fasting Monday morning. Those are the ones
yes.
that have really made.
Those are the ones you're wondering, how are you teeing off on a
Yeah.
Monday morning? Again, those are now living in the aspirational kyondo because their important kyondo has worked, their security kyondo has worked. Now they're enjoying their lives. That is what we aim for, some of us. Just, to drop the children to school, to pick them without worrying where money is coming from. So, what are the basics for investment? One, you need to have compound interest. If the investment you're doing has no aspect of compound interest, where your interest earns interest, you need to
Revisit.
Always look at that aspect. Whether you're doing rates, whether you're doing rates are real estate investment trusts, whether you're doing dividends, whatever you're doing, it must earn you some compound interest. Learn, learn, so that you can diversify your portfolio. And then please stop being let risk versus reward work for you. Kenyans, I know we like low risk, so we do treasury bonds and bills, but imagine there are many other things in this world. Please reach out to me and let us grow your portfolio. Again, you will not, let me remind you, you will not be in debt all this time. Even as you're in debt, you're saving. How are you saving? Even as you're in debt, you're saving for school fees. Where are you saving that school fees? If you're saving that school fees in your savings bank, in your bank savings account, vis-a-vis in your money market fund, you're losing value.
True.
And when I said this talk, you remember I talked about inflation rate. Now this is where inflation rate starts coming into place, because everything must earn you
Interest.
an
Yeah.
income higher than the inflation rate. That is the one rule you need to carry with you home. When you see CBK publishing that inflation rate, look at all your investment. If anything is giving you less than the inflation rate, please find a way out of that investment. And that is my reasoning why I don't like education policies. They give a rate that is lower than inflation. So you're losing the value of your money. There's one that I just did calculations for, and the person is only earning 1.25% per year, per annum on this policy.
That's terrible.
Inflation is 3.8. 3.8. So if inflation is 3.8 and you're only earning 1.4, please notice that the future value of your money is depreciating even faster.
Yeah.
That is all I will say on that one. So my Kenyans, this is what you people do. This is what I deal with every day. So a lot of us are into money market funds, treasury bills, treasury bonds, and we buy land.
And speculate.
Now, can we start buying land that makes us money? That is my pleading today. My fellow brothers and sisters, can we buy land that makes us money? Can we buy land that we can farm on? Can we buy land that we can build apartments on? Can we buy land that makes sense? Can we stop buying land for the sake of putting it that I have land somewhere? Then if you're medium risk, you will see them doing commercial papers or loan notes from different companies, and then they will do a lot of special funds, or which is Mansa X, Oak Fund, such things. High risk, those ones are into equity funds, growth funds, crypto. They're the ones who come and tell me, Lydia, this portfolio doesn't, I want to make money. Now, if you come to me and tell me you want to make money, you can be sure we will not have any land banking in your portfolio. We will not have treasury bills and bonds in your portfolio, because we're making money. That's the aim for this our portfolio. So let me talk about money market funds, because we have a craze for them right now in this market. Why do we prefer them over savings accounts? When my bank, and I will not mention them because I love them, is giving me 4% per annum for my savings. My money market fund is giving me 13%. You see how that love is not working very well between the two of us. A whole difference of 9%. My money has to make me money. So yes, even especially my savings has to make me money. Even school fees, I always tell people, even school fees has to make me money. So they invest in short-term instruments such as treasury bills, call deposits in the bank, short-term treasury bonds, and corporate bonds, which are also short-term, which is usually 1 year. Their benchmark is usually is based on the 91-day treasury bill plus 3 to 5%. So if the 91-day treasury bill is at 8, and a lot of them, their returns will be between, right now it's at 8%. So a lot of them, their returns are between 11 to 13. If you're in a money market fund that is below 11%, please just talk to me, exit that money market fund and talk to me. Because your money market, I saw one that is at 7%. I will not mention it because I could not believe it. My eyes were having issues. In my language would say I was seeing stars. 7% is below the treasury bill, the 91-day treasury bill. The 91-day treasury bill is at 8%. So all your money market funds have to be 8% and
Above.
above. Anyone that is below 8%, please visit us. I will leave my contacts. Me, in fact, WhatsApp me after this and just tell me, Lydia, my money market is at this rate. What do I do? We will figure you out. So typically, I had to put a typical return here. As you can see, it's not much, but it helps. The little you earn helps. So for 1 year and you've saved about 130,000, you'll earn about 7,000 after withholding tax. Please note, money market funds have withholding tax. What do we use them for? Now, that emergency fund, that savings fund, that contingency fund I've been talking about, yes. Then your sinking fund. What's your sinking fund? It's those things that Roslyn and I were talking about, your car insurance, your car maintenance costs, your school fees. What's are school fees? And then it just it pops when you're just broke. Like now, it was right after Easter when we got. In fact, that school of my daughter is malicious. They sent the school fees on Wednesday, just before Good Friday, just to remind us, Mukienda to happy hivi.
We are new.
Mtajipata.
But also even
You're on your
but also
own.
even when it comes to holidays, like Christmas,
Yeah.
we want to enjoy. Yes, you've worked a whole year.
You want to enjoy it? Then save towards
Yes.
Christmas. Let's put it this way. A goat is how much? 15,000? I'm
Yeah,
assuming. Well, I don't.
an average one.
I don't. An average is maybe 15. So we'll just do 15 divided by 12. I think it should be about 1,000
Yeah,
and something. Hey, we'll just start putting away that
like
our
1,200
amount into
average, just for the sake of argument.
1,200. Just start putting it aside in a money market fund, so that ukiambiwa we want Lydia want a mbuzi from you. Chap. Why? Because anyway, the money is, again, for most money market funds, not for these ones that I'm talking about. For most of them, the withdrawal is 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 working days. So which means you get your money. If I withdraw today, I'll get my money most likely tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So either way, I'll still have access to that money quickly to buy them mbuzi.
Yes.
Cool. So that's basically what it is. Then we have fixed income funds. These usually have a lock-in period. Most of them are 3 to 6 months. Most of the Kenyans are 6 months. Some have a guaranteed interest rate. So if you take, for example, a commercial paper, on the agreement, it will have, we're paying you. Let me give an example of the one I know that right now they're doing it. Izwe will pay you 16%. To be on the agreement that they're paying you 16%. And they're usually long term, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. They're long term. The biggest category here usually is government bonds. We really like treasury bonds in this country, especially if you hear an IFB. You can be sure I'll be called that week many times because of that IFB. Lydia, should I buy it? Yeah. And we have equity funds. Equity funds have become big in this country. They were not, but they're doing very well. They're thriving. Why are equity funds thriving? One, there's an aspect of withholding tax that is not there for a lot of them that invest offshore. Their interest rate, some did up to 45% last year, others did 30%, 20%. The lowest I've seen did 29%.
It's very good return.
Again, what do equity funds do? Let me just explain this so that you don't go lost. I hate when I lose my customers. Equity funds primarily invest in shares or stock, whether in Kenya, whether in Africa, whether in Europe, whether in the US, in the in the S&P, in whatever it is. pay primarily 80% of their investment portfolio will be in stock or in shares. Special funds. These are my people like Oak Fund. And so they mix their, in the other world, in the financial world, we'll call them a balanced fund, but in this country, they're called special funds. They will mix in the commercial papers, the treasury bonds, the offshore stock, the in Kenya stock, and give you a return. And a lot of them, the return last year was 20% and above. So they're doing well. Why do I like special funds? They have no withholding tax component as of now, because they have a portfolio of usually 20 to 30% that is offshore. Then commercial papers, these ones are companies that, especially in Kenya, microfinance companies that issue loan notes. You get into the scheme, they will tell you how they will be paying you. A lot of times 3 months, 6 months. Their starting or beginning capital for most of them is 1 million shillings. So it's a bit higher than all the other ones. Then we have bond funds. These ones primarily invest in treasury bonds. A few will do East African bonds, but most of them do Kenyan bonds. Then the balanced funds. Now, these are the ones that mix equity and bonds. They are not very common in Kenya, but in other markets you will find them. Let me put it this way. There are as many products on my desk as there are people. Whether you want to invest in Kenya, whether you want to invest in UK, whether you want to invest, Lydia, I want a real estate bond in Europe, we'll find you one. The issue is it must have a goal. Why are we doing what we're doing? That must be the underlying situation. That when you're coming to me and we're doing things, for example, if you have a child whose plan is to go to university in the UK, then you'd better start saving in dollars and pounds and euros. Pick one and start saving in
Yeah.
it. Because in the next 6 years, when you have to look for 8 million for this child to go to the UK, the education projections for the UK in the next 5 years is they'll have moved from 5 million Kenya shillings to 8 million. So if you have that, if your child is in Cambridge, then you know, unless they're doing medicine, law, or engineering, all the other courses that they want to do, they can do them in those countries.
Yeah.
Start saving, start thinking through it. And that's why it's important for you to have goals. That's as much as I am talking about how to invest, the goals are very important. Like, for example, if you know your child goes to an IGC school, start planning early. Start working hard. Start working not just hard, but smart with your money so that you cover those costs. If your child wants to go to a Kenyan university, if you have seen the new pricing, to do medicine in Kenya per year will be 680,000. HELB is only covering 20%. You need to cover the rest. So that your child's dreams are not cut short, work at it. So grow your portfolio, grow your passive income, keep growing your passive income, so that when all these expenses are happening, you've had 5-10 years to plan for them. Planning is very important.
I think just to complement what you said in terms of, if you're looking at international schools, etc., doing or saving in hard currency, the pound, the dollar, the euro, it's imperative because you will not be hit by the forex exchange. So, when you're talking about 5 million Kenya shillings, you're looking maybe at an average of 50,000 pounds, and I know that's on the higher side, but it's important for you to, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's local or international, diversify. Because sometimes even if all the schooling will be done locally and you have, hard currency investments, that means that you will have the advantage of, forex gains. So, as Lydia says, let your money make you more money. So diversify. It's good to take up risk. I'm not saying you be careless about it, but diversify. Don't be too comfortable, because then too much comfort will also mean lesser return, so to speak. But if you have a mix of, guaranteed and a bit of risk, it also motivates you to also get smarter on where to invest, where are the right investments, where are the right touch points for us to go by.
Mhm.
Yeah, Lydia.
So when you're looking at your guide, these are what to look for. Like, I want to invest, yes. What do I do? First, there has to be an alignment with your goals. Two, you have a definition of interest expected. Every fund manager has a benchmark, or what the others call them hurdle rates. That benchmark, you must know what it is so that you know how to plan. Structure, what do they invest in? If you don't know what they invest in, please leave that product alone. It is not for you, because there has to be a transparency. If, for example, you open Mansa X, their fact sheet,
That's it.
you'll
Yeah.
see what they invested. If you open for Oak Fund, you'll see what they invested. Almasi, you'll see what they invest in. M Wealth, you'll see what they invest in. Kuza, you'll see what they invest in. There has to be what are they investing in, and who and how do they structure these investments. Very important, you need to have a regulator. A space like private equity that does not have a regulator, then you need to have a very good lawyer. Either way, you need to protect your interests. I'm not saying don't get into the private equity space. No, venture capitalism is lucrative, but have a very good lawyer on call, especially a commercial lawyer who understands how to structure this to protect you. Otherwise, make sure that if you go to the CMA website, you can find this fund manager, you can see their license. If that product that fund manager is offering you is not on CMA website, do not touch that product because it has not been licensed. And you will lose your money and you'll have no recourse. Here is a sample of a portfolio that you can. This is one of my clients who's grown for the last, 3.5 years we've been working on for, yeah. So as you can see, we can balance out things. So you see, there's something here that will give us 46%, there's something that will give us 34, and then there's something that will give us 20%. We have spread risk as much as we can, but we're also earning 70,000 per month. We are happy with these earnings because they cover a lot of things. By the time, usually I say predict it in the next, if you continue saving in the same regular space without unforeseen financial disasters, because some of this we would have to liquidate if she had a financial disaster, then in the next 5 years, you should be able to double the 2,600, 2.6 million, double that. So it becomes 5.2.
Two.
And that's usually, we give it three. Some, if I usually say, if the financial gods are with us, then we should be able to double this money in the next 3.5 years. If financial disasters happen and other things happen, in the next 5 years. So think of it that way. Why am I putting this here? And it is a crazy amount. I've not even put the ones that come and tell me about 20, 30 million because they're retiring. No, you can start. Remember that 1,000 bob. Once you're inspired enough to do the consistency of saving, the discipline of saving that education policies tell you, we are helping you develop that muscle for saving. So as you develop that muscle for saving with a standing order to a money market fund, what will happen is before you know it, you're at 500,000. So you're calling me to ask me, hey, Lydia, I've saved. Now I'm at 500,000. You're shocking yourself, but you're also excited about the possibilities. Do you have debt? Most likely, yes. Most Kenyans have debt as much as they are saving. So we will find a way to balance both the debt and the savings so that even as you're paying off your debt, you're also growing. Because both have to coexist together, especially consumer debt, have to coexist together. Um, So this is what happens. Again, if you're retiring or you know someone who's retiring and they're in a provident fund, and I'll explain. A provident fund is where you're given all the money in bulk and you're told, figure things out. If they're in one of those, reach out to me. I'll help them grow something that will keep that money going for them for a very long time. If yours is a pension, ensure that you're paying towards your pension. Why? Because this, for example, this person, if they have to pay medical insurance, they're not struggling because they're earning enough annual interest to pay medical insurance for their family comfortably, for their people comfortably. If it's that old person's cover, because nowadays there are some that cover people from the age of 65 to 80, they can pay the premiums for their parents comfortably and they don't have to worry about that whole thing of nip to me at 10,000 I'm going to see the doctor, send me another 30,000 I'm going to see the doctor. No, their tests are covered. If they're hospitalized, those are covered, so there's all these things that we need to do to protect our wealth. And protecting your wealth is insurance. And what type of insurance am I talking about so that you people don't go and shock me here? First one, health. Second one, your car, because it's also mandatory by law. Third one, your house. Those things in your house, especially even your mobile phones, because nowadays our mobile phones are 180,000, 200,000. Your wedding bands, if you lose one to replace it, is ridiculous costs. So your household and your life, so that when you exit left and see Jesus, your family will not be left cash strapped and land wealthy. No, there'll be cash for them to run their households as well as the land and whatever other manner of wealth you have left. Um, I'm a Christian, so I'll put it this way. The Bible says we leave wealth not to our children, but to our children's children. So we are planning for that other generation. Not these ones that are in our house making a lot of noise, but they are children. So yeah. So that, and again, let me start. This is a big portfolio, yes. For others, it is a small portfolio. Please send me the millions. I will invest them for you. But start with the 1,000 bob.
I think if I can complement what Lady has said, one, if I can mention about pension, people need to understand there are two types of funds. There's a provident fund and there's a pension fund. As Lydia said, provident fund is where you at maturity you get 100% of whatever has been saved. A pension fund, it doesn't matter if you get it through your employer or you contribute. At the time of retirement, you only get 30% as a lump sum, and then the others you have to buy an annuity. You get in small aspects. Whatever the case, you need to, these goals that we are talking about, what many people don't understand is if you can leave your fund, be it a pension fund or a provident fund, to remain as is and continue earning interest until you are 65 years old, do you know you can get that money tax free as of now? Before they have
Yes.
not changed the legislation as of now. Now asitusikie. But life happens. So when you get it prior, you will be hit by a 30% tax, and it's usually how can I put it? It has
Bands.
it has bands. It has tax bands, and 30% is the highest. So try as much as possible. These goals that we are talking about, to have the right combination of what can I have that can sustain me for a long time, but also how can I get the most, because you worked really hard for this fund. It doesn't matter if it is the pension or the provident, but do you also know that one, you can decide to contribute on the side for your pension. It will reduce your tax, your payee. Or
Yes.
if you pay or if you contribute to your pension using your already taxed income, it means at the time of maturity, it will not be taxed again because you'd already paid for the taxes. So there's that way. But now, if I can jump now on to insurance, and I will touch on a very touchy thing because sometimes Africans, we can be superstitious. Last expense policies. We come from different tribes, different customs, different cultures. Yeah. I come from a tribe whereby, God forbid, today is Tuesday. If I was to turn left and go meet the Lord, there's a probability I will have been interred by Friday.
Yes.
There are other cultures that it's a serious celebration. It can be 2 weeks or even a month. Invest in last expense policies. They do not cost an arm and a leg. Yeah. And also, as you insure yourself, as you insure your car, please note that the motor insurance policy covers the people in the car and not the driver. So you need to get a personal accident policy for you, the driver, because you can be the one behind the accident. So you are part of the risk. It covers for third party people. So as Lydia says, her contacts are on the screen. Please reach out to Lydia. Yeah, she and I have had a lot of exposure within the insurance industry. Feel free to reach out. Your health insurance, your domestic insurance. Domestic is not the house insurance, etc. It doesn't matter if you're renting. The house may not be yours, but the contents, the things that are in your house, and there's something they call all risks. All risks are the things you move around with your laptop, your tablet, your phone, your it doesn't matter, your rings, you name it. Those are the things that you need to insure. You need to look at every aspect of your life 360 so that you do not find yourself suffering because you did not plan. Yeah. Failure to plan leads to character development and emotional damage, if I may put it plainly. But what I can say for me, my take home right now is this has been very educative, very informative, and I cannot thank you enough, Lydia, for taking the time to take us through step by step. This is not an advertisement of what Lydia does. This is an awareness, and this is why Unplugged with Rose is here. Different topics every other time for us to become more aware about ourselves, about our well being, all facets of ourselves. Today, we were talking about money, which is a very, very touchy subject. So, tonight, I hope, or depending on where you're watching us from, take the time to write everything down. Be it your debt, be it your budget, be it your goals. There's beauty in writing things down. It's like you're writing a contract to yourself. If you want something, you will gain it. So, Lydia, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please feel free to take that number. And please note, Lydia also has a WhatsApp community. So save that number. It will lead you to her WhatsApp community where she also shares, insights on wealth management. She also has a newsletter, all things. Tell a friend to tell a friend. The objective for us having these conversations on Unplugged with Ross is to create that awareness and for you to walk away knowing that you can gain more, you can do better. And I mean, possibilities are endless. So by all means, go for it. Reach out to Lydia and do not be afraid to, don't be afraid of your debt. It doesn't matter if you've made mistakes. We've all done mistakes. Yeah. Don't go falling prey to pyramid schemes. Don't go doing, investments that are going to burn you. Don't go burning your books. Be strategic about it because you deserve the best. Lydia, asante sana. What's your Your
My
final word.
parting shot.
Yes.
One, please remember money is still part of you. It's not. Well, yes, please. It's part of you. It's part of your hands, your fingers, your fingers, your fingers. Yeah, I have a child, and we're always doing things. Fingers. Think of money as your fingers, your hair. Yeah, it's just it's part of your personality. Um, do not, if your personality, depending on your personality, match your money. Why? If you are a person who has high energy, want things done in a certain way, please do high risk because you will take in the risk better. If you're the I don't want to do it. So please just match your personality with your investment because then you'll sleep better. Debt is okay. We can figure things out. Don't be drowning in debt and saying, there's no way out for me. I have no hope. Debt is not hopeless. We can figure things out. Hope, hope is important. When it comes to money, I need you to just hang in there and say hope is important. Lydia said we must have hope. Why? Because then vision comes. And then plan, just plan. And as you fall in love, don't let your money fall in love as well. Just you just pour your heart out and fall in love, but leave the money to just become part of, again, your fingers just. And lastly, you're not too far into a financial disaster that we cannot rescue from. But you must be willing to do the work. You will do the homework. You will do the writing. You'll do everything you need to do. My work is to make sure that things work out for you. Let me tell you, if you're on this call, I hope you've taken many notes because the reason I even told Rosalind the reason I want to do this is financial awareness because I need care. I just need people to do better with their money. And we can do better with our money. That's the most amazing thing. I have watched people pay off debt. I've watched people grow their income. I've watched people who are just happy to be seeing money in their bank account and they're excited. And for me, watching that person who comes in as a hopeless situation of, gosh, Lydia, I have so much debt, I don't know where I'm going to start, to watching them breathe as the debt burden eases. That's one of my favorite feelings in the world. So plan. My parting shot is plan and have
And
hope.
planning and having hope is what we will do and continue to do. I cannot believe that it is 2 hours down the line. Who knew? Having fun and having insightful conversations can, time flies. Lydia, I can't thank you enough. Everyone who's joined us, thank you so much for your patronage. I will see you again in 2 weeks for another session of Unplugged with Ross. Tell a friend to tell a friend. This has streamed live on LinkedIn and it has also streamed live on YouTube. The YouTube channel is Unplugged with Ross. It also has previous sessions that have streamed. Please feel free to watch and learn along the way. I thank you all and I wish you all a really, really good evening and a good night ahead. Thank you, Lydia, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks.